In a quiet African village, nestled between wide grasslands and ancient baobab trees, lived a young man named Kito. At 23, his thoughts were older than the village itself, filled with visions of a world far beyond the horizon. From a young age, Kito spoke of a strange place, a land that lay across the endless waters. He described it as a land where people had skin as pale as the morning mist, where cities reached up to touch the sky, and where massive ships moved like floating villages upon the sea. But whenever he shared these visions, the elders would laugh, their faces crinkling with amusement. The other young men would mock him, their words sharp and dismissive. Even his closest friends, one by one, grew tired of his tales and slowly stopped listening. "There is nothing beyond the ocean, Kito," they would tell him, their voices firm with certainty. "The world ends where the water meets the sky. You must stop filling your head with such foolish dreams." Kito, however, knew what he had seen. It wasn't just a dream. Many years ago, when he was just a boy, a broken ship had washed up on a distant part of the shore. Its wood was covered in foreign markings he couldn't understand. And among the wreckage, he had found a book filled with pictures of towering cities, magnificent ships, and people who looked nothing like anyone in his village. That book had changed his life forever. It was his secret, his proof, the fuel for his unwavering belief. Every night, Kito would lie under the vast, star-dusted sky, imagining a world that was bigger than the fear that confined his people. But dreaming in a village that valued tradition over imagination came at a steep price. The villagers began to whisper. They called him a liar. Some even said he was cursed, touched by a madness that made him see things that weren't there. Others accused him of wanting to abandon his home, his people, his heritage. The pressure mounted, even within his own home. His family, who loved him dearly, begged him to stop. "Kito," his mother cried one evening, her eyes filled with worry. "Dreams like this only bring trouble and shame upon us." But Kito looked at her, his own eyes gentle but firm, and replied softly, "Mother, if I stay silent, if I let this dream die, my heart will die long before my body ever does." And so, at 23 years old, armed with nothing but his courage and the images from a tattered old book, Kito made a decision that sent shockwaves through the entire village. He decided to leave. He sold the few possessions he owned, a small herd of goats and some handcrafted tools, for a handful of coins. He then traveled to a bustling coastal town, a place far from the familiar comfort of his home. There, his real struggle began. He worked tirelessly at the docks, his days filled with grueling labor. He carried loads heavier than his own body, his muscles screaming in protest. He was insulted by strangers, cheated by employers, and once again laughed at for his seemingly impossible dream. After years of relentless struggle, saving every coin he could, Kito finally stood before a massive ship, a true floating village just as he had imagined. His heart pounded in his chest as he stepped onto the gangplank. As the ship slowly pulled away from the shore, leaving the familiar coastline of his continent behind, he whispered a quiet goodbye to the land that had never believed in him. The journey across the ocean was cruel and unforgiving. Enormous waves crashed against the ship like angry spirits trying to tear it apart. Vicious storms swallowed the sky for days on end, plunging them into a world of roaring wind and darkness. Many times, clinging to the rails, soaked and shivering, Kito thought he would perish, that his body would be swallowed by the very waters he sought to cross. He feared he would die before ever seeing his dream. But fate, it seemed, had other plans for the boy with the unbreakable spirit. When the ship finally docked in England, Kito stood frozen on the deck, his eyes wide with awe. It was real. Everything was real. The buildings were taller than the greatest legends of his people, their peaks disappearing into the clouds. The streets were a blur of constant motion, filled with strange metal carriages and a river of people. And the people, they were exactly as he had described, exactly as they were in the book. Their skin was pale, their hair like spun gold or the color of the setting sun, different and undeniably real. Life in this new land was not easy. The world moved at a dizzying pace, and Quito struggled to understand the rapid flow of the language. He worked long, grueling hours at menial jobs, cleaning, lifting, doing whatever he could to survive. Loneliness became his constant shadow, a heavy cloak he wore in the bustling, indifferent city. He was an outsider, a man caught between two worlds. Until one day, he met Elena. She was a librarian, a woman with a kind heart and a curious mind. When Quito, hesitant at first, began to speak of his home, of his village and his impossible journey, Elena listened. She didn't laugh. She didn't doubt. Instead, her eyes shone with admiration for his courage. She saw the truth in his story, the strength in his spirit. Slowly, a deep and beautiful friendship blossomed between them. It was a friendship that soon turned into love. Despite the vast differences in their backgrounds, they found a profound strength in each other. Quito shared stories of the African sun, the ancient traditions of his village, and the taste of the wild fruits from his homeland. Elena, in turn, shared her world with him, the world of books, of art, of history, and of dreams that were different, yet somehow the same as his. Years passed. Quito grew wiser, stronger, more confident. He had not only survived in this new world, he had thrived. And one day, with Elena by his side, he knew it was time. It was time to return home. When Quito's familiar figure appeared on the path leading to his village, a profound silence fell over the community. People stopped their work and simply stared. Children, who had only heard tales of the dreamer, pointed in disbelief. And then they saw her. Walking behind him, holding his hand, was a white woman, her smile as gentle as his. Elena. The same villagers who had mocked him now stood speechless. The elders who had laughed at his foolish dreams now bowed their heads in shame and respect. The truth had returned, and it was undeniable. Quito looked at them all, a gentle, knowing smile on his face, and said, his voice clear and steady for all to hear, "I did not lie. I only dreamed louder than your fear." Quito and Elena were married in the village, a beautiful ceremony that wove together the traditions of two different worlds. Two worlds became one, and together they built a life founded on courage, belief, and a love that knew no boundaries. And in doing so, the village learned a powerful lesson that it would never, ever forget. This story teaches us some profound lessons. Sometimes, the people who doubt you the most are simply afraid of the things they cannot imagine for themselves. Your dreams might invite laughter and mockery today, but the truth, when pursued with courage, always returns with proof. Most importantly, belief in yourself is the strongest and most powerful weapon you will ever own. And finally, it shows us that true love knows no borders, no color, and no distance. If this story touched your heart and gave you a little bit of hope, please help us grow this small channel. We have a dream of our own to reach 10,000 subscribers and share more stories just like this one. So please, like this video, comment with your thoughts, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message today. More powerful African stories are coming soon. Thank you for listening.